All right, settle in because this isn't just a story about a ranch, a road, or a fight with the HOA. This is about how a $500 fine lit a fire under a man who'd spent his life fixing roads for other people only to have a pack of entitled neighbors try to run him right off his own land. The funny thing about picking the wrong fight, sometimes you don't just lose. You get taught exactly what it means to mess with the wrong stubborn soul. I still remember the vibration in my palms as the roller's engine growled to a stop, settling the last of the gravel into place. There it was, 300 feet of smooth new access road cutting clean and straight across land my boots had known for 20 years. Every inch of it built right, every permit signed, every survey stamped all by the book. I'd put in 2 decades designing roads for people who never cared who actually did the work. And for the first time in a long while, standing back and brushing the dust off my jeans, I actually felt like I'd fixed something in my own life. That feeling lasted about 5 seconds, right up until I heard those tires on the approach. Too smooth, too eager, too familiar. Linda Marston, HOA president from the subdivision over the ridge, pulled up in a white SUV so spotless it probably got waxed more than my truck got washed. She climbed out high-heeled and high-horsed with a notice pinched like it might bite. "This is for you," she said, sharp and cold. Bright orange, $500 violation, unauthorized construction aesthetic disruption, immediate payment required. I let the words hang for a minute, then said what anyone would. "You've got the wrong property. This road's on my land. Always has been." But Linda, chin high, looked at me like I'd tracked mud onto her marble floors. "Your road impacts the visual harmony of Willow Bend Estates," she sniffed. "Our community has standards. You'll comply like everyone else." "Linda, I'm not in your HOA." She just smiled, tight, satisfied, already convinced she'd won. "That's debatable," she shot back. "Your parcel touches our border. Your improvements affect shared access corridors. I dealt with this breed before, people who thought paperwork made them royalty and threats were the law. But this was different. Too direct, too fast, too rehearsed. I told her she was trespassing. She smiled and left with a threat. "Pay, or we'll pursue remedies faster than you think." Dust flew as she peeled away, the sound of her SUV a metronome for the anger tightening up in my chest. See, Linda wasn't just swinging her weight around for the hell of it. She showed up at the exact moment the last of the gravel settled, almost like she'd been waiting, watching, maybe even plotting. And a fine for aesthetics. Over a road that had never once been under her authority, something stunk worse than old fertilizer. Next morning, the mailbox was jammed full, violation notices, environmental complaints, demands for corrective action. Not a single one carried any weight outside their manicured subdivision, but the sheer volume meant something. At the bottom of the stack, a certified letter demanding I restore the natural terrain. Like a properly permitted county-approved access road was vandalism. Before I finished reading, a county patrol truck showed up. Deputy Cole Huxley stepped out, looking about as tired of this as I already felt. "Morning, Evan. Mind if we talk HOA business?" I handed over my permits, every signature and stamp in place. Cole barely glanced at them. "Linda's been trying to stretch her power for years," he said. "Wants to make your land her next expansion project. Yours sits right in the way." He left with a warning, "Expect more noise." And I stood on my porch watching the wind move the dust, thinking this wasn't about my road at all. It was about control. That evening, neighbor Tom Keller, old school, quiet, steady, showed up with a rolled map. County plat from 1982, before Willow Bend Estates ever existed. He pointed at a bold line slicing through my property. That, Tom said, is the only legal access corridor Willow Bend's got. Without it, no ingress, no egress, no emergency access. They lose that the neighborhood's dead. He let that sink in. That access was conditional. They owed maintenance. They owed respect for the deal. And in 30 years, they'd never paid a dime. Suddenly, I wasn't just fighting off fines. I was holding the keys to their entire community's future. Linda's $500 was nothing but a warning shot, because if she lost that road, Willow Bend would tank. Mortgages would default, insurance would spike, the whole place would turn to legal quicksand. The more I pieced it together, the more obvious it became. Linda wasn't mad about the look of my road. She was terrified I'd realize how badly she needed it. The next morning, another violation was slapped on my gate, unsigned, just the HOA seal in a crooked hurry. not even brave enough to face me. Then the real campaign began. Neighbors whispered that I was diverting water, endangering the subdivision and unstable. HOA volunteers in matching shirts circled the fence line, snapping photos, taking notes like they were casing a crime scene, not standing on a working ranch. That's when Maya Henderson showed up, single mom, exhausted, honest. She handed me 3 violation letters she'd gotten that week. Mailbox height grass too long, parking out of compliance. All because she'd refused to join Linda's crusade. She's telling people you're going to get the neighborhood sued, Maya said, voice shaking. She said you're dangerous. That was the last straw. Not the rumors, not the fines, but seeing good folks turned into targets because they wouldn't play along. That night, I set up trail cameras, every angle of the easement, every foot of fence line, watching not just for trespass, but for the patterns of abuse nobody had ever bothered to catch before. It paid off before lunch. HOA trucks rolled up guys tossing bags of grass branches, even concrete, over my fence, dumping their waste, turning my land into their landfill, and every second of it caught on camera, clear as day. That afternoon, I brought it to Grace Delaney, toughest lawyer in 3 counties. She watched stone-faced, then leaned forward. They've been trespassing, illegally dumping, and if those piles cross your property line, that's civil damages. Add it to the file. Then Grace pointed to the plat map. This is the real bombshell. They've used your access for 30 years and never paid. If you press it, they owe you maybe 6 figures. I realized in that office that I'd never been the one cornered. I'd just been the one who finally woke up. Grace's advice: document everything. Let the violations pile up. Don't confront, don't escalate, just build the case. She warned me Linda will retaliate when she realizes you're closing in. She was right. That week, the HOA staged photo ops, sent more inspectors, even tried to manufacture evidence by dumping gravel at my fence and taking staged photos to make it look like my road was causing erosion. Each trick made my file thicker. Still, I needed the ace proof of breach on the easement. That's when Tom came back with county records. For 32 years, Willow Bend hadn't paid a penny toward access maintenance. All those decades, their leaders had just ignored it, hoping nobody would notice. That's when the plan clicked into place. We'd send a formal demand, pay 30 years of back fees or lose access. The county confirmed everything: my land, my right to enforce my authority to lock the gate if the HOA didn't comply. Grace drafted the letter, and when it went out, everything hit the fan at once. By sunrise, sheriff's lights flashed up my driveway. Linda, the board cameras, half the subdivision lined up for a showdown. Linda screamed that I was blocking a public road. Cole, steady as ever, read the county's letter out loud. Landowner holds full authority over the easement. He turned to Linda and told her in front of everyone, "You're trespassing and you're in violation." That was the crack that broke the dam. Residents, realizing Linda's lies, turned on her, asked why she'd never told them about the unpaid fees, why they'd never known the road was never theirs. She tried to shout them down, to pin the blame on me, but it was over. The crowd wasn't angry at me. They were angry at her. Within days, the county called a hearing. Linda, all puffed up with binders and speeches, claimed I was extorting the community. Grace and I came armed with every scrap of evidence: trespass, dumping, staged violations, decades of unpaid fees. Tom brought the county maintenance logs. The sheriff testified to Linda's false police reports. The final blow: Linda, under oath, admitted the HOA had never paid the fees, not once. The board ruled HOA in violation, me in the clear. Linda removed as president, effective immediately. The new leadership handed over a check, the first of many. The subdivision issued an apology, and Maya brought over cornbread as a thank you. That's the funny thing about justice. It isn't always flashy. Sometimes it's quiet. Just the soft click of a gate closing where it always should have, and the wind across a road built right, owned right, defended right. Linda lost everything she'd tried to bully her way into keeping, and the neighborhood learned a lesson about the real lines that separate power from responsibility. See, the moral isn't complicated. When you try to rule through fear and lies, eventually the truth finds a way to stand up. It might take a while. It might take someone willing to outstubborn you. But in the end, law doesn't care how many times you wave a notice or how loud you shout community standards. Law cares about facts. So tell me, what would you have done if you were in my boots? Would you have fought, folded, or found another way? Drop your thoughts down below, Ever tangled with power injustice or a neighbor who forgot where their line ended? I want to hear your story. And if you're still hungry for real tales where truth bites back, go ahead and subscribe. There's more dust and more justice coming down this road.